That's a spider. There's a spider in here. That's cool. Hold on, I'll be right with you. There's a spider here. Wait, stop. Stop. All right. All right, and now we... Okay. Nope. I apologize. I knew something wasn't right because there was something moving. There was a dot over there and it started moving. Hello, welcome to the Wild Review on the Wild Review, and welcome to day 13 of 25 Wild Christmas Review Days. Today we are continuing and concluding our talk on Home Alone. The story of an 8-year-old boy who was left behind by his family after they rushed to the airport to make their flight all the way to Paris for Christmas vacation. And while home alone, the boy had to tend to himself but also defend his home from 2 burglars that tried robbing it. Today, we're going to talk about Hollywood's idea to make a sequel off of this movie, Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. Released in 1992, 2 years after the first Home Alone came out, the story follows the McAllisters family once again preparing to leave for a Christmas vacation, this time to Florida. And after learning from their mistake, this year they're making sure that their 10-year-old son, Kevin, once again played by Macaulay Culkin, is with them this time. Which, come to think of it, is a bit odd when you think about Kevin's age. He was 8 in the first movie, and now he's 10. And it's only been a year gap, so how does that exactly work? Well, in any event, the family ends up running around making sure that they make their flight on time once again because the alarm clock didn't go off for the parents. God forbid anybody else in the home manages to wake up in time for their flight, but all of them, including Kevin, race to make the flight. However, Kevin accidentally lags behind after he bumps into a woman, thus losing track to where his family went. Although fortunate for him, he thinks he sees his dad and ends up on a flight not to Florida, but instead to New York. So now, while his family is on their way to spend their vacation in Florida, Kevin takes a flight all the way to New York City, where he discovers once again he's all alone. Which is very coincidental for him, seeing that the night before, very similar to the first movie, he wishes that he was once again alone by himself without his parents. Now with no family or siblings around, Kevin roams every single bit of New York City, and eventually comes across a 5-star hotel, which he manages to get a suite in after he discovers he has his dad's wallet, and he also has this voice recording device that he luckily brought on the vacation with him. So now Kevin is living the life once again as a child with no parent supervision whatsoever. However, similar to the first movie, his fun slowly turns into disaster when, coincidentally, the largest city in the United States and possibly the world, he runs into Harry and Marv, the wet bandits from the first movie, and soon discovers that they plan on getting even with him by putting him through the same torture they were put through the previous Christmas. So now, Kevin has to defend himself once again and figure out a way for him to get out of this mess so this way he doesn't end up getting killed. Meanwhile, in Florida, the family desperately tries to figure out where Kevin went and also how to retrieve him and possibly get to him, knowing that he could be anywhere, seeing he took the wrong flight. So, I like Home Alone. I didn't say much about Home Alone yesterday because there really just wasn't that much to say. I do like the movie. It's not one of my favorites, but I enjoy it. This one is alright. I don't hate it. I don't hate this movie. I actually give this movie props for being more Christmas than the first one. And I only say that because if you saw the video yesterday, you'll know I made a comment about how, if you take Christmas out of the whole plot of the first Home Alone, it really wouldn't matter. And I know some people would argue with me on that whole discussion about whether Christmas has a big role in the first movie or not. Personally, I could see this movie working out just fine if Christmas wasn't in it. But it works with Christmas in it as well. They were going on a Christmas vacation, and if you take out Christmas and replace it for a spring vacation or a summer vacation, it would still technically work. Maybe a few things here and there would change. Specifically the part where Harry would slip on the steps as they freeze over. Obviously, very little things would change if Christmas wasn't a big part in the first movie. But in this film, it works. And it only works because the film's taking place in New York City. Christmas is basically everywhere in New York City. You have Radio City, Rockefeller Center. At that time, FAO Schwartz was around. They may not decorate every single aspect of New York City, but they go all out when it's Christmas time. And I think that works. That, among a few tiny things in this film, I appreciate. The main thing that I have a little problem with is, when I saw it, I felt like I was watching Home Alone taking place in New York City. Which I know will probably sound weird to you, because that is technically what it is. This is the Home Alone sequel. The main location, though, is just in New York City. Which I get. But when I say that, I mean, it literally feels like it's the first movie in this movie. I feel like they took every good aspect of Home Alone and did the exact same thing in this, with the exception of a few changes. And I really feel like they just took all the funny bits that they knew worked in the first one and just put it in this one, just to see if people still like that type of humor 2 years later. I mean, I know that's kind of become a staple of the Home Alone movies, at least these two. But the point of a sequel is you're supposed to be telling either a different side of a story or a continuation of the story, or maybe just doing something different with the story. And I get they were trying to do something different here because they definitely took all the characters and put them into a new location, because I'm pretty sure to do another Home Alone and call it Home Alone 2 and leaving Kevin home alone again, I mean, that would definitely make it feel like that it was just a copy and paste movie. At least giving them a new location, New York City, that gives them a few more things to do. But I kind of expected a little more. The only real new thing that I feel like we had was the hotel scene. Even though that kind of mirrored Kevin being home alone in the first movie. But the hotel scene, I felt was a very fresh aspect to the movie. Mostly because of Tim Curry, which I think we can all agree he did amazing in this. In my opinion, he's the best thing in this film. The lines he say are absolutely hilarious. And in my opinion, I think he would have made a really great film for this movie, which is another thing that this movie has a small little problem with in my eyes. Like I said, Marv and Harry are back in this movie. They explain their appearance because they were brought to prison at the end of the first movie, but supposedly there was a prison riot and they managed to escape. So that's the whole reason why they're in this movie. Coincidentally, they just happen to be in New York City, and wouldn't you know it, they run into Kevin. What are the odds of running into a small little boy that you know in the largest city ever? I get maybe it was important to bring those characters back because, yes, this kid did definitely torture them, and, they're angry. These are burglars. They were brought to jail, so of course they're going to be mad at this kid. So it kind of made sense that they were, out to get him, knowing that they ran into him again. But I really wish that maybe they weren't in it, and it's nothing to do with the fact that I didn't like the characters. It's just their story was already kind of told in the first movie. They had a purpose in the first movie. They were burglars. They were going to rob Kevin's home. In this one, they're just there. I mean, in this one, they were plotting a holiday heist in New York City, so that gave them something to do. But I think Tim Curry would have played a very good villain in this, seeing that he was kind of already an antagonist to Kevin, only because I could definitely see the movie working better if everybody in the hotel, tries to prove that this kid, he's alone, we're going to catch him, he's got his parents' credit card, at least kind of work with that. I know it doesn't sound that exciting, but I think that would have worked out fine. Or maybe introduce a new villain. Why did we have to bring back old villains that kind of served no purpose other than to get the same treatment that they did in the first movie? Which, again, He's kind of the only thing everybody looks forward to in Home Alone films is the slapstick. But for me, I found the slapstick to be alright. It wasn't grand, it wasn't great. It actually kind of surprised me how, like, you know, even more deadlier this time around when the slapstick happened. Like, yeah, so while the slapstick may be very similar to how it was in the first movie, with this one I felt like it was a bit more violent and kind of unnecessary at times. Just with, like, little things. I mean, a few things were funny. I like seeing Marv get, like, electrocuted, and, like, at one point we see his skeleton, so I found that pretty interesting, but I don't know, I felt like this one was a bit more darker than the other one. The other one kind of felt like, you know, innocent, you know, ignoring the fact that we had these characters step on glass and have their heads set on fire and burn their hands, you know. This one, though, I guess the only reason I say that is because, you know, there's one point near the end when that happens, Kevin ends up getting injured, ironically. He slips on ice, falls, and hurts himself. And then Marv and Harry, you know, they finally got him. And then Harry pulls out a gun, which I didn't expect to happen. You know, my first time watching it, I didn't expect to see that gun. I was like, okay, these guys are insane. They're actually going to kill this kid. That's great. Of course, Kevin doesn't end up dying, and the two end up getting sent back to prison. Of course, it's going to be a happy ending, and Kevin's reunited with his family. But I don't know. To me, this was good, but it wasn't great. If I had to choose, I would probably go for the first Home Alone, which I know a lot of people would probably argue with me on, especially a lot of my friends, because I got a lot of friends that love the second one. Like, one of my friends just adores this film, and she would rather watch this than the first one. When I think the first one, I guess only because it is the first one, it's the original one, that has a bit more enjoyable moments than this one. If you watch that one first, at least, because if you watch the first Home Alone, you'll definitely enjoy it. If you watch this one, you'll probably get very entertained. You'll definitely get entertained by Tim Curry's parts. But like I said, I felt like I saw this stuff before. They literally mimic certain aspects of the first movie into this one and just change a few things with it. That's not to say a lot of things are not fresh in this movie, because there definitely are a bunch of new things in this film. Like, there's a scene where Kevin and Buzz actually get into a fight. Well, there was a fight in the first movie, but this one they actually get into a fight on stage because they're singing, and a whole thing happens with that. Again, the hotel scene is relatively new. There's a scene where Kevin goes into a toy store. So there are new aspects to it, but generally for me, while I appreciate all the Christmas in it, and it definitely feels like a Christmas film, I'd rather prefer the first one. It's nothing personal. It's just, you know, it's all right. That's all I gotta say about it. I find it all right. You know, if I see it on TV and I get sucked into watching it, you know, I'm not gonna, like, fight over it. You know, I don't hate the film. It's just I feel like it could have done more, in my opinion, and that's really all I gotta say about Home Alone 2. And with that all said, that's all I gotta say about the Home Alone films. That's all I'm doing with the Home Alone films. Now, what did I think about both... Now, what did I think about both Home Alone films? Generally, I think both films are great. They're fun films to watch around the holidays. If you haven't seen them yet, I would definitely recommend them. Watch Home Alone 1 first, and then see what I mean with the second film. You can see the second film first. That's up to you. If you love the second film, great. If you love the first one, great. Overall, Home Alone is a genuinely good series. I don't have a problem with it at all. You know, because these two films are great. And no other ones. So that all said, I now want to pass the questions over to you. What is your opinion on Home Alone, both the movies and series entirely? Do you enjoy the films? Do you make it a point to watch them every year? Have you seen any of the Home Alone films? And which one is your favorite? Do you agree or disagree with anything that I said in this video? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. That's it for day 13 of 25 Wild Christmas Review Days. Join me tomorrow as we will discuss another Christmas film. I'm pretty sure it's Jingle All the Way. I'm also pretty sure I wasn't supposed to tell you because I wanted to surprise you. That's great. Thanks for watching The Wild Review on The Wild Reviewer, and you just saw it. No! Oh, and Donald Trump is in this movie.